to feel that heart connection with the earth and with nature, and what a blessing it is for us to be here. One of the challenges that will be addressed at COP28 is the Loss and Damage Fund. I taught high school and middle school English last year at our farm school, and we studied about some of the challenges that are facing humanity around the planet. Pakistan had 1/3 of the country underwater. Probably there's still large regions of it. We read a book about South Sudan and the challenges that the villagers had just to have water to drink, and the women having to walk for 6 hours a day. Now, they still have that drought in a large portion of that country, but they're dealing with flooding over the rest of the country. So drought and flooding at the very same time. These are people that depend on subsistence agriculture. Pakistan was projected to cost $10 billion, that damage. Now it's said it's already up to $40 billion that it's going to cost. We're going to have a huge amount of money put into that loss and damage fund that they're negotiating. And the developed countries are not willing to make the contribution. They're afraid they're going to be held responsible for all the damage that we've created. Rightfully so, right? You create the damage. I mean, the Rio Declaration from '92, one of the first ones says, if you create damage, you're responsible to pay for it. That's the polluter pay principle. So it's time for us to pony up and ensure that the funding is there for these developing countries that did not cause the problems to have the resources they need once the damage is done. So that's my part of it. One is, how do we take action to prevent the damages getting worse and further devastation of nature? And then what do we do to repair the situation that we've already caused?
Thank you very much. So it's about loss and damage, and it boils down to who will pay the bill for the damage. And of course, if you look at it from the point of view of climate justice, it's quite clear. The West, the developed nations, have caused the pollution historically. So they are rich, they have the technology, they should help. And they should share hands, share resources with the developing nations. It's quite clear. So let us see what will come out this COP. Diane, what's your personal motivation to engage in climate change and COPs? And these COPs can be quite hectic also, and coming here, commuting with the metro, having so many appointments, can be quite stressful. Please also share your secret, how to avoid the COP burnout.
Thank you. So I all my life, I remember wanting to change the world, wanting to make a world that actually worked for everybody and where everyone could have a good life. And about 20 years ago, I guess I realized that it wasn't going to just require dealing with injustices in society. It was also going to have to look at the harm that was happening to the planet, and that the industrial processes of the developed world were creating a situation that was going to cause an existential crisis if we didn't adjust it, we didn't address it. So I decided that I wanted that to be my key issue and wanted to. So that what we bring to the crisis is, how do we deal with the emotional trauma from the climate crisis? Many parts of the world are suffering deep trauma from what's already happened to them, not to mention the anxiety about what's to come. So that's one of our big focuses. And the other focus is that we believe our same tools of listening can be really helpful for people in dealing with the oppression that they've experienced: racism, classism, sexism, other oppressions, and the way those oppressions hold people back from being able to play the role they want to play in society, have the lives they want. So those are the two big areas that my organization works on, and I use those tools personally. So
this helps you avoiding the COP burnout.
Definitely, yes. And
wonderful, wonderful. That's great. Sister Genti, here at the climate conference, it's all about reducing the carbon footprint. And in a spiritual organization, I assume we say it always starts with us, with the self. At the Brahma Kumaris, you propagate a vegetarian or even better, a plant-based diet and also a simple lifestyle, or let's say an adapted lifestyle. Please let us know how meditation and self-empowerment can help us in doing the necessary adjustments for a sustainable future.
It's actually a very simple thing because everything that we're doing depends on our mindset. And our mindset at the present time is one in which we think that everything external is going to bring us happiness. And what meditation has given me has been to realize that all that I'm seeking outside is actually inside. So when I go into silence and I go on that inner journey, I find the happiness, the peace, the love that I was looking for outside. And of course, that created the consumer society. And I thought that I could buy everything. And I'm now realizing that that's totally, absolutely the opposite direction. The more I look outside, the more I'm chasing a shadow. But when I go inside, I'm able to discover those treasures within. And then when I feel that contentment and fulfillment, then I don't want another pair of shoes. I don't want to buy another handbag. I'm really totally content and satisfied. And so the consumerism finishes very quickly, and you come back to a sustainable lifestyle and one in which you're concerned not just for yourself. You know, Mahatma Gandhi had said a long time ago, there's enough for everyone's need, but there isn't enough for anyone's greed. So in a world, there's huge injustice, and that's because of greed. You hold everything, maximum majority of the world, they have to manage. So that's very sad. So I think that meditation and spirituality is very good for us. Also, it's very good for the planet, because then when we simplify our lifestyle, we stop cutting down trees, we stop looting the rivers, everything changes. So I hope that COP is able to give space to this message.
A very wonderful answer and very interesting. And interestingly, the COP is happening here in Dubai, which is one of the global shopping paradises. Yesterday, I needed a small thing, and we went into one of these mega stores, and it was just overwhelming. I've never seen something like that, and I had to muster myself and say, I don't need this, I don't need this, I don't need that. So this brings me to the second question. Rob, I understand that storytelling and education, especially for children, is at your heart. And my question is how to reach out to the public and educate them about the needed lifestyle change for a sustainable future. There is so much information now which is available around us. And I think I read that you also set up a webpage with a lot of information. So there's so much information around us. And what's the trick you're using to be heard and to have an impact?
First, I think, is for the message to be clearly communicated that we're in a crisis situation. We have like 10 years if we don't make substantial reductions in the amount of emissions that are emitted, that there's tipping points that are coming, there's planetary boundaries we're crossing. Today, we learned that the permafrost region of the Northern Hemisphere, an area that's warming much faster than the lower latitudes. 30 feet below the surface of the Earth, the permafrost is melting. The Earth is a great insulator. If you can imagine the heating going down 30 feet through the Earth and causing the change in the temperature down. So as we lose that permafrost, the whole planet is heating up. So it's like you were saying, you know, the extent to which this is happening now. We've cut so many of the forests in Amazon and other rainforest areas of the Earth, as well as in the northern latitudes. If we lose more than 5% more, we're going to lose whole swaths of the rainforest. Rainforests, like most ecosystems, create their own environment that they need to sustain themselves. It's why we have so many deserts around the earth today. Most of those deserts were once grasslands or forested. But as they've heated up and warmed up, can no longer sustain that environment. So we end up getting deserts. So those deserts need to be brought back. Any area where it's becoming desertified, we
So
back.
what's your trick being heard and bring the message over? You're an old hand and a teacher. So how you get the attention of the people?
So part of it is to begin teaching children about climate change and what's going on.
Okay.
It's their world. They're going to inherit this world in a period of years. Wonderful new initiative that the United Nations is doing through UNESCO is greening education. There's a challenge that's being put out there now, and the materials and the toolbook, everything is being created. Every country and every school in the world is being challenged to do climate education. I think today it's something like 7% of schools do climate education. Every school in every country, teacher training in every education department, every school being greened. That's another area where it's just not happening yet. And every community in the world to be transformed into climate resilient community. And we're doing this in our eco-village communities today, and we want to see every school in the world do it as well.
So that's a very good idea to train the children because they own the future, basically.
Yes.
Wonderful. Jan, you are working in peer counseling to deal with emotions of the past. Climate anxiety is becoming a big topic, especially the younger generation cannot see anymore the future they live in. And as far as I understand, you even offer a workshop here at the climate conference to overcome trauma and deep emotions and anger, fear, discouragement, and grief. How does it work? And what is your experience and result in this process? Please share a bit with our audience.
Okay. Yeah. You know, our understanding is that people, you know, in our societies, we're all trained to hold back our feelings. If we have emotions, you hold them back. You don't share them. And what we've found out is that that's actually damaging to us to bottle things up inside. And so we teach people listening skills, and we help people get into pairs or circles, listening circles, where people have a turn to be listened to without judgment and in a way that encourages them to express those emotions. And what we find is that if people can really release those emotions, they're not only do they feel better, they feel less discouraged or bad about themselves, but their mind starts to clear and they start to be able to think better. And particularly in this area, I think it has a couple of effects. One is I think it helps people face what the situation is. It's a bad situation. And so for people to really look honestly at it and what's required, it would be helpful if they could sort of release some of what comes up when they realize we're in a climate crisis. One of the other places it's so useful is that those of us who are already engaged in looking at climate change every day.
And people feel relief and improvement?
Oh, definitely. And sort of as people, we call ourselves the reevaluation counseling community, and people usually become part of a class, become part of a local group, and that exchanges this kind of listening with one another. And yeah, their lives change.
Listening to people's problem can be so wonderful.
Can be so wonderful.
Yeah.
It's great to be listened to, but it's almost better to listen to someone else.
Wonderful. That's a very interesting approach. Wonderful. Mr. Genti, in your regular teachings, you promote a positive mindset. I'm a bit building on the question I had for Diane. What is your advice from a spiritual perspective for people having anxiety or fear because of climate change? And how do you project hope? And what can help those people from a spiritual viewpoint?
It's not a perspective that everybody can immediately understand, but certainly the perspective that I come from is the understanding that there's never something that lasts forever. There's always change, there's always movement. So when it's a dark night, it's not going to last for days and days. The night is going to end, the light is going to come. And so I try and make people aware that this period that we are passing through is a very dark period, but there's another era that's to come after that. And it's like, if there's a forest fire in a natural way, not the sort of wildfires that we are seeing today, but if there's, in a natural cycle, there's a fire in the forest, then the seeds that have been there already, the heat releases the energy for the new saplings to come. And so something may be very bad on one level, but it's actually giving substance, is giving way to something that is new. And so the period in the world that we're going through, it's not just climate change, but because of the erosion of values, we look at the situation with the economy, we look at the situation of politics, we look at the wars that are going on in the world at the present time. Two big wars dominate the headlines, but there's also many others going on that are being ignored. All of this is part of a process of transition to wake up humanity and to bring us to that understanding that we're trying to look outside for everything, but the answers are actually within. And so when I go on that inner journey, then I find hope for the future, but also I realize that this is simply a transition from one period to another one. And so with that deep faith and conviction, and this is something that's totally natural. There are seasons, there are changes, everything changes. And so the night has to give way to the day. And I believe that we can see signs of this. A few days ago, I was with a group of business leaders, and the topic they gave me was very surprising. But they gave me the topic of compassion and connection in business in a chaotic world. 5 years ago, it would just never have happened. Climate change, there was a pre-conference event that I was part of, arranged by the UN, and that had people like Professor who was dealing with Inner Development Goal, Peter Senge, he was on that panel. And the topic again was compassion and interconnectedness in terms of climate change. So you spoke about nature and love for nature and so on. So allowing compassion to come, allowing that change of heart to happen in which we see nature truly as the mother who's given us everything that we have today. If we can change our mindset and change our awareness, that's it. I think the world can change very quickly.
So the crisis is a chance for humanity to transform and to wake up. And this is also giving hope, can give hope to people that it is part of a cycle. Wonderful. Rob, you live at the Eco Village Training Center, the farm in Tennessee. And probably you do a bit gardening there also, I assume, and pretty hands-on. And how important it is to walk the talk, or let's say, to live according to what you teach, to become a personal example, let me say. Does an authentic lifestyle, to be this example, help you in having a greater impact? What you teach? Please share a bit from your personal life.
Thank you. Well, I'll share two things with you. One is my whole life, I've ridden the bicycle. School, work, around the community, whatever. It turns out that's one of the most beneficial things you could possibly do for the planet. We have a situation today where 80% or more of the emissions are coming from our burning of fossil fuels. We have to get off of fossil fuels. We've known for 50 years we had to get off of fossil fuels. Now the prices dropped so substantially for renewables. And we said 50 years ago this would happen. When enough investments were made, the price would drop, so it's cheaper than anything else. Never again should a power plant be powered by fossil fuels or nuclear. There's no point in building another one like that. They should all be renewable. The same thing, if you're going to buy a new car, for God's sake, buy an electric vehicle. I mean, we can't just keep doing this. The oil companies in 2022 made $200 billion in profits, just profits. We have to get the oil that we've already discovered, 40% of it can never be used. It just has to be stopped. And still, they're researching and drilling for more because they make such profits. But you know, if you care, if you have that compassion, you understand we can't keep doing that. We have to give up those profits. If you want to make profit, invest in renewables and make the change. But personally, so I ride a bike. Another thing that is a huge difference is we have to switch to regenerative agriculture. And you mentioned vegetarianism. I've been a vegetarian for 40 years. But the difference is I buy only organic food, almost exclusively if I can. And I almost never eat meat anymore. Occasionally fish. And that's about it. Yeah, first I switched to free range chickens, you know, but it's like, still, it doesn't make sense. That's the biggest impact. So much of our food, the food that we grow goes to feed animals so that people can eat meat. And we're killing nature in the process. We've cut almost all the forests already. There's very few old growth forests left anywhere on the planet. So we grow at the Eco Village Training Center bamboo. The bamboo is harvested, it's burned. I brought the kids down from the school. We did biochar burns. You create a pit, you can use a kiln, a metal kiln, but you burn it without oxygen. When you burn it without oxygen, the woody material oxidizes, burns off the gases cleanly, no smoke from the burn whatsoever, and you're left with charcoal. It's special charcoal called biochar. They've been doing it in the Amazon for millennia. And it improves the soil health substantially. When you put that into your compost pile, it charges the biochar and it brings the nutrients down into the root zone and it sequesters that carbon for millennia.
It's very wonderful. So many nice examples you shared. And I started bicycling in Mount Abu in India. I live in Rajasthan. 5 years ago with an electric bike, and everybody laughed at me and said, oh, why you're not driving scooter, this and that. Now already 3 electric bikes in Mount Abu. So personal example is always very, very nice and inspires people, and very glad you shared this, you shared your examples with us. Diane, recently I came across an interesting book called The Nutmeg's Curse. And the author argues actually that climate change started actually already long time ago, about 500 years ago, with the colonialism, and is closely related to colonizing countries, installing monocultures there and disrupting the natural cycles. And this is also closely related to racism and has deeply damaged our relation. Everybody's with everybody, and separated us from each other. How to heal these old wounds and bring us...
Racism plays a huge role in the climate crisis, both in how it's developed and in the ways that we're not addressing it because of racism. And so that addressing racism and other oppressions, the other divisions between us is key. The way that we take on racism in reevaluation counseling and sustaining all life is by bringing people together, first of all within their group. So bringing white people together to work on how we've been damaged as white people, to think that we're superior, to think that we're better, to think that our ways are the best ways, and to use the same process of getting to cry, getting to express our emotions about the history of racism and its impact on us, and clear out those habits, those patterns of superiority out of our actions. And then we have groups for Africans, for African heritage people, Latinos, Arabs, different, where people get to come together and talk about and express the emotions about how that racism impacted them, and how they feel limited by it, and how they've been limited by it, and get to emotionally recover And then as you begin to be able to think more clearly, and that you can rise up. You can rise up more effectively, and you can reach across barriers more effectively. Part of, I mean, you said it, one of the big damages from racism is the division between people, and we cannot solve this crisis if we can't all come together. But we can't do it just pretending that there isn't this huge hurt, that there isn't this huge damage, this huge injustice there. So we think we have to do some real hard personal work to purge ourselves of racist patterns and beliefs so that we can effectively come together. And, you know, I think one of the big ways that racism impacts the climate crisis now, besides the colonization and the history and all the stolen resources from the global South that are one of the reasons we have to, that loss and damage is such a big issue, that, let's be honest, we stole the resources. That's why the global South can't address what's happening in their countries. But we, white people, we can't listen to Indigenous voices. We know that Indigenous people have done a beautiful job of caring for our planet, but we can't listen to them. We can't follow their leadership because of our racism. We can't ask the people of the global South, what's the right solution for you in your situation? Because our racism makes us think we know best. And so bringing those understandings, and I think there's a real effort at the COP to elevate the voices of Indigenous people and of the global South, but without doing some kind of deep internal work, it can just become kind of mouth, just something we say, but we actually can't actualize. So we do a lot of our work here this week will be about racism.
Wonderful, wonderful. So listening to the Indigenous people and their wisdom might help us to solve many of the problems we are right now in. Isn't it wonderful? So let us hope that you have some impact, and your ideas and your concept ripples out into the COP, and people will listen and change. Sister Jenti, spiritual practice helps us to experience the self as a being of light, or let's say as an observer, as a being detached also a little bit. And this also strengthens the concept of universal brotherhood, and lets us experience all of us as one world and one family. Something very important also Diane mentioned. And how important is such an awareness for overcoming the climate crisis? Build strength and resilience and develop our full creative potential for transformation. Can you enlighten us a bit on that point?
In fact, in a way, you've summarized everything already, Golem. Because it is this inner awareness that I'm not this physical body. This body is extremely precious, and it's my real connection with the earth, because all the earth, the air, the water, the fire is what my body is made up of. So this is very important. But something that's more important than this body, it came from dust and will return to dust, that I am that inner being, the soul. And when I connect with myself, I begin to realize the qualities that I carry within myself, I'm able to have that inner dignity that no one, nothing can take away from me. And this is why you see people in India sometimes very poor, but they carry themselves with a dignity, and they're not interested so much in the external, but they have this awareness in a very natural way of the inner being. But today, if I cultivate that understanding and awareness, I begin to see each one as that inner being, the light that's shining, and I'm able to connect without the barriers that normally come in, whether it's age or gender or color. All of these things create so many barriers. But this vision of brotherhood then truly can become a reality, and the care and compassion for all and treating others with that dignity also happens in a very natural way then. And so I believe that this really is the answer to all our problems, all, not just climate change, but all the other problems also. And yes, it helps me look at things in a very neutral way. I won't use the word detachment because it can be very misunderstood, but I can stay very impartial, because there's nothing that I want from you. I can see what's going on, what you're doing, what this one's doing, but because my inner state is a fulfillment through my meditation, what do I want from you? Nothing. What can I give you? That becomes my response. And so for the other also, what can I give rather than what can I take? And so the whole equation of human relationships and even relationship with nature changes. One of our senior teachers asked me at some point when we were talking about nature, and she loved nature. She always wanted to be able to be out in the open, the sea, the sky, the mountains. She loved it. But she said, we've been taking from nature all this time. Is it possible for us to give to nature? Because we've been so aggressive with nature, can I now give nature peace and love and respect and gratitude? That's beautiful. Can I give my thanks to nature for everything that nature has provided? So this spiritual awareness really changes things in a very dramatic way. The wish is that everybody should have this awareness and be able to experience the inner dignity that comes through this.
How wonderful. The formula which solves all our problems. See yourself as a spiritual being and see all of us as brothers and sisters. How wonderful, and it resonates nicely with our overall theme, care, share, and inspire. Thank you very much, Gentiben. So we're coming to our last round of questions, which will be very short answers. Rob, please share in one word your good wish for the COP, and in one word your good wish for the world.
Graciousness. That all of humanity will recognize that we are one family.
One word.
And find that place in their heart to be gracious.
Gracious, okay, for the COP and for the world also, both. All right, wonderful, graciousness. And Diane, what is your good wish for the COP and what is your good wish for the world?
Yeah, I think transformation, just a complete change.
For the COP and for the world?
I think so. I think
right.
It does work that way.
Two in one. Mr. Genti, what is your blessing in one word?
I wish that COP would actually carry out in action the things that they keep promising.
So authenticity?
Or... Yes,
okay.
yes.
All right. Yes. That's a tricky one.
And for the planet, that there should be love for the whole of nature and everything on the planet.
Yeah, how wonderful. Love heals everything. I love myself. I love the world. I don't hurt. How lovely. So what a wonderful, great inspiration. And slowly time is ticking and we're coming to the end of our session, of our panel discussion. And I'm very happy for all your input, great inspirations, great ideas, great concepts. And I'm sure our listeners also got one or the other very deep, valuable inspiration. Mr. Genti, we still have a couple of minutes and it would be very...
So it's a very simple technique. We don't stop thoughts, we use thoughts in a very conscious way. And so I'll speak out my own thoughts as I reflect and invite you all to follow those ideas. Sitting quietly, I reflect on the things I've been hearing about. Gratitude, the ability to listen, the connection I can make with each individual and every living being and the planet itself. I reflect on all of this. My attention goes to thoughts. I can feel my thoughts slowing down. Each thought creates a feeling. I think about peace. I let myself feel peace. As I do this, I realize that peace is deep within myself. It's not outside, it's within. Awareness, I can feel the presence of the divine. And the vibrations from the Supreme reach not only me, they reach out. All human souls and experience vibration peace that comes from source. Peace reaches all forms of life. As they feel these vibrations of peace, they are no longer afraid of us. They walk with us. These vibrations of peace reach out into nature. The aggression of nature nature is restored to a state of harmony and peace. Stay in this awareness, peace, carry it into all my actions.
Wonderful. Such loving thoughts for the world, for the self, for the climate conference. And I think peace is needed right now for all of us, for the climate conference, for the world. Thank you very much to our three speakers, Diane, Rob, and Sister Genty. You have given great inspirations. And this brings us to the end of today's panel discussion. And I should not forget to mention our patrons and sponsors, Brahma Kumaris, the Kalptaru Tree Plantation Program, Brahma Kumaris Environment Initiative, Radio Madhuban, Yogis for Future, and India Care Trust. Thank you very much. Special thanks also to the Raja Yoga Center here in Dubai for hosting us and providing the space, and to all the helpers behind the cameras who are preparing, working tireless since many, many days to make this panel discussion possible. And last not least, special thanks to you, to our audience, who is listening to this transmission and who has spent all the time with us. Please do join us tomorrow for another session of Care, Share, Inspire. And please look for details at our webpage, www.echo.brahmakumaris.org. Thanks very much. Goodbye and good night from Dubai.